Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews and to another review video here on the channel. Today we are going to be talking about House of Odysseus by Claire North. Some quick disclaimers before we start. The first of which is that this is a very shiny book, so I'm sorry if this makes the lighting go a bit weird. I did receive this wonderful finished copy of the book for free from the publisher Orbit. Regardless of where books come from, nobody's paying me to talk about books except my patrons, and all opinions are my own. I will keep this as spoiler-free as humanly possible for book 2, and also bearing in mind that this is based on Greek mythology, so some of the information has been around for quite some time. I do have a review video up for book 1 alone, so if you want to go check that out, you can. We're going to be spoiler-free for book 2 for the most part, but if you want to go in knowing absolutely nothing, come back when you've read the book, we'll chat then. And I will link the story graph for the book below in case you want to check out any user-generated content warnings. In fact, I'll link the series. There we go. Up you go. Try not to blind the poor people. Which way makes you the least shiny? That way. This book is the second book in the Songs of Penelope series by Claire North, the first of which is called Ithaca, and it looks like this. I do have a copy, it's just downstairs. This sequel came out on the 24th of August 2023, so I'm scrambling to get this review out now that I'm back in the country again. This is a Greek mythology retelling series focusing on Penelope on the island of Ithaca. Originally appears, I don't know if she appears other places, but there's the Iliad and the Odyssey. We're in Homeric period of time. Who is Claire North, you ask? Actually, Catherine Webb, who is also Kate Griffin. A lot of pen names happening with this author. Do we need to have a chat about pen names at some point? I have thoughts on pen names. Anyway, she writes an awful lot. This is this series. So this book follows on from the events of book 1. Book 1, to summarise, we're on Ithaca, the suitors are there, Odysseus is away, the book is narrated by Hera, who is observing these events, and it's a lot about the queens of Greece, Clytemnestra, all of that stuff. If none of those names mean anything to you, we'll come on to that in just a moment. In this book, we are still on Ithaca, because that is the concept of the series. Penelope is dealing with the fact that Odysseus is still gone and not back, and now her son Telemachus has also gone away. In this book, we don't have Hera narrating, we have Aphrodite, and the kind of crux of the conflict of the story is that Menelaus arrives on Ithaca with his wife Helen, who has been recovered from Troy as part of the Trojan War. We're ringing bells to those who know this story. They show up in order to try and find Orestes, who is hidden on the island of Ithaca, and Penelope has to try and keep herself and her island and her people safe while not getting in the middle of this potential war that could erupt between Menelaus and Orestes. Greece in turmoil post-war. I haven't rewatched my original review for the first one yet, which may have been an error on my part, but I think it would probably be a bit weird to watch myself on camera, so I'm just going to say the things that I felt about this book, and if I say the same things again, then you just know it's consistent across the two books. And also, again, before we jump into the actual review, I will say I did not do a reread of Ithaca to start this book. I don't think you need one. If you know the myth well enough, you'll remember the characters, and it's kind of just dumping you back in. I think there were probably a few character elements that I maybe missed out on in terms of the emotional arc, but I will try and do a reread for book 3 so I get that sense. So this series continues to be a Greek mythology telling, but we've made it about women. That is not a total bummer. In fact, what I've written in my notes is a total and utter trauma fest. Now, I stopped reading Greek mythology retellings around about the time that I read The Silence of the Girls, which I bring up a lot in the context of this kind of conversation because it is one of the most depressing examples of this that I have ever read. I've not read a lot of the recent ones. I know there's been an Electra that's come out and a whole host of them. There's hundreds. For me personally, they tend to just feel exhausting and emotional and not really serving anything. Like, the plot is that things are bad. In this case, I think because we have this almost mystery not quite adventure, but mystery action needs to be taken kind of plot going on with the potential for war and people coming to Ithaca and these characters from other myths drawn in, it definitely makes it feel a bit more like an actual book and a story rather than just rehashing a myth and including all the bad things that happen to the women in it. If you like that kind of book, that's great. For me, it doesn't work. Whereas these books, I think, actually take an interesting angle on the story. So where in book 1 we had a really interesting take on Hera, who is often a villain in Greek mythology or portrayed as such, instead talking about her care for women and mothers and queens. In this book we have Aphrodite, who again often played off as kind of very sort of vapid, is instead champion for women's desire and women's pleasure and women's joy in a way that I don't think other books would write her as or have in the past. And it makes complete sense for a book in which you're bringing in Helen of Troy to discuss her and Penelope, who obviously have a relationship in myth. When you're bringing those people together and other women as well, it's just very interesting to have a goddess who has that perspective on it all, and also her relationship to Hera and to Athena, which is another thing that was happening in book one. Yes, a really good perspective that meant that bad things still happen to women in these books. We're not having a love fest on Ithaca, but the angle it takes is interesting and it makes it not just feel miserable all the time. So we have this plot line, we have Menelaus, we have Helen there, we have Orestes. I don't know the Orestes side of myth particularly well. If you have been around on the channel for a while, you'll know that while I was an ancient historian, I bounced off the Greek side of things fairly hard and landed in very much Roman and very much archaeology rather than history. So I'm a bit sketchy on it. Classicists, please don't come for me. I don't know that story as well, so I can't comment on what actually happened and where things are. I know bits and pieces of it and I know the names. I would say if you don't know the Iliad or the Odyssey whatsoever, if you know zero Greek myth other than maybe knowing the gods' names, because I feel like that's fairly common pop culture knowledge, I don't know how easy this would be to get into, just because a lot is written as kind of dramatic irony, like knowing that Helen is going to show up, you have to know who Helen is to understand the impact of that. And I think Claire North does a good job of fleshing out the bits that maybe aren't as common knowledge. I think the Clytemnestra, Orestes, Electra stuff is well handled and I understood what was going on. I never felt like I was missing out. I think probably I might have got more out of her take on it had I known it better, but that's always the case with a retelling. And again, I think the fact that there is this plot line and actual stakes, characters being brought in and the characters making decisions, it's not just things happening to them because that's what happens in myths. I think it works well. I would say if you've never liked any Greek myth retelling, or if that's just not your thing, you don't like that kind of storytelling, this isn't going to be for you, it's not going to change your mind. I think if you're burned out on Greek myths, it might be an interesting take to bring you back in. Perhaps. I can't really say. For me, as I say, the one that I enjoy. This is the one. This and Percy Jackson and we're all good. I'm really interested to see where book 3 goes, because the end of the Odyssey, Odysseus' return, not to spoil something that's been around for literally hundreds and thousands of years, was always my favourite part of the story when I would listen to it on audio cassette. That's how far back we're going, growing up. And I feel like the way that the story's been set up, it's either going to be a total bummer to have things happen similarly to how they happen in the actual Odyssey, or it's going to be a total rewrite of the Odyssey. And I'm really interested to see where Claire North goes with this third book in the trilogy. I don't know. I don't even know who the narrator is. I did have a sneaky bit of knowledge that it would be Aphrodite beforehand, but book 3, I've got no idea. Is it going to be Athena? I don't know. I have questions about where the third book's going to go off the back of the second book, but I don't think that detracts from my enjoyment of book 2. I was genuinely very surprised by how into the book I got, how fast I read through it. I thought it would be one of those books that I would just be willing myself to pick up, but actually I had a great time. I think Claire North's writing is very accessible and very enjoyable to read, and her way of crafting a plot makes it not feel like you're in a Greek myth retelling while you're reading it. And I think I felt the same way with book 1. So it's a pleasant surprise. It was a really nice surprise, and maybe I won't go in with those sort of negative expectations in book 3. Some other things you might want to read if you've read this. In terms of Greek myth stuff, I do have others that I've read. I'm being slightly hyperbolic. I do really enjoy Circe, which I have a review up for on the channel, and likewise Song of Achilles, which they're both the most well-known ones. But, you know, there's a reason they're most well known. I like both of them. I also mentioned Percy Jackson. Very different vibe, but those were some of my favourite books growing up. I think I've not had another series really hit me in terms of reinterpreting how I saw something that I thought I knew really well. In this case, my perception of these goddesses have never been rocked quite so hard as in these books. So if that happens again, I'll let you know, and we'll see what happens with book 3. Have you read this? I know it's already out, so I can ask that question. Do you have plans to? Are you planning on picking up book 1? Are you waiting for the whole trilogy to be done? Do you have any thoughts as to who will narrate book 3? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also come hang out on Discord, where we have chill chats about books. I would like to say an enormous thank you to all the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They support the channel and in return get early access to videos, bonus content, live streams, and more. If you'd like to join their number, that's linked below as well. Thank you so much to you for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. The series is a Greek mythology retelling centred on Penelope, the character from the Iliad and the... But I think probably come on, brain.